All right. Good morning, everyone. So, welcome to our first edition of our Play, Pause, Learn professional learning series. I know it's 8:32, but hey, we got started. So that is pretty good. This morning, what we are going to go over is we are going to talk about online whiteboards and how you can use those for collaboration with your students, especially during a live session. Yes, especially during a live session. Today we also have one of our teachers here, Jennifer Davila, and she's going to talk to us about how we've used this. She's used this in her classroom a couple different ways, and then I'll go through and show you guys a couple different options as well. So, welcome, Jennifer. How are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm glad we got this started up and running. So let's talk a little bit about the online whiteboard. So what did you use and how did you use it? Which platform were you using?
So I've been using Jamboard as a warm up on my live virtual lab, not lab days, sorry, but live virtual class days. So I just on my weekly Canvas page had them do it as their bell work. So as they came into the classroom and we were waiting for everybody to enter, and I was taking attendance, they knew just to go to their Canvas page and go to the Jamboard. Of course, I'm reiterating that as they come in. Mute your mics, make sure you go to the Jamboard. And I've done it 3 different weeks in a row. The first week, as you and I discussed, I didn't realize that I could add frames.
Different frames, yes, yeah.
Yeah, so I just used one frame and then I would clear it out after every class period. And 7th period is by far my best class period. They're probably my highest performing. They added the title themselves, so that's why it says the best period of the day. Okay. And this is what I had asked them to kind of recap for me what they learned on Monday and Tuesday with evolution. So this one turned out really well. This was the first one I did. The second one I did, I learned how to make the tabs. So as you can see, I put period 1, period 2, period 4, sorry, not period 2, period 5. Didn't get quite the response on the first few periods, but I also think that because we were going over bioethics, which is a brand new topic, they were a little confused about it. But again, it's a warm-up, so that let me kind of know which class periods were understanding it and which class periods weren't, and what I needed to go through in the live session. And then the last one I did was the zoo. We went on a virtual zoo trip, so I just had them tell me what animals were their favorites, so that when I went in through the different webcams and things, I knew which ones we should probably focus on. And as you can see, every time 7th period does a lot to make it pretty and add a lot of things. They are my most active class by far. So.
Yes, that looks good. So now I noticed students don't have their name on the tiles. So what's the accountability piece, I guess, look like for you? Or how are you ensuring that the students or all of your students are participating?
That's not something I've really gotten into yet because I'm still learning about the Jamboards myself.
Okay.
Like you and I talked about, I would like to know how to put a background on here that they cannot
manipulate. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, the way I have it set up, they can manipulate
anything.
So they can add tiles, they can move my class period around. I'd also like to know how to put like a diagram on here that then I ask them to post and identify different things. So this is very new to me. It's very rudimentary what I've done with it, but it's been working out really well enough that I'd like to learn how to use it even more efficiently.
Okay, so it's working well for you so far. With that, have you had issues with students deleting each other's work or, doing anything inappropriate. I know a lot of times that's a concern of our teachers. And so what are you doing to kind of combat that issue? Or maybe before you start the activity to preface and say, hey guys, here's what, how we need to behave with it.
I haven't really had any issues with any of them putting anything inappropriate or messing with anybody else's work. Again, you have full access to this as well. The only problem that I've had is this student right here, and I know exactly which student it is.
Okay.
Because you can see like it's like a little icon that comes up that shows you which student it is that's typing on that. He likes to do this.
Yeah, you were talking about that.
Yeah, so I just come back in and move it around, and I'll resize it and just reiterate to him that we're not going to go take up the whole board with just your animal or your idea, that it needs to be looked at. Everybody needs to be seen, because again, I am watching this as I take my attendance. I'll have a split screen to where I can see them in the meet and see this screen.
Okay, good. So you've been using the Jamboard, you like it. Students access it by going to your Canvas agenda, of course, like you were showing us. How will you use it in the future?
In the future, I'd like to, like I said, I'd like to learn how to put diagrams in the background that are not accessible by the students. When I say accessible, that they can't mess with it or move it. How to put a stationary
How to lock them, basically.
Yeah, a locked background on there. If you wanted the accountability piece, they just are using the Post-it notes. Now they can go and add writing, as you saw with them adding the little hearts, or someone really wanted to see the penguins on this one. They can erase that writing. The sticky notes just seem to be the easiest, because then they can actually type in them. You could have them put their name on there. I've had to do that with the Padlet as well, because it doesn't tell me who's putting what post on there. I have to have them put in their title what their name is.
Yeah, and this is a good alternative to Padlet. I know several teachers have expressed how now Padlet you only get 3 free, and so yes, there are ways around that limit, but this is essentially almost the same thing. You can attach different things to it as well, and then like you said, even the slides component, which is something I'll go into in a minute. So I really appreciate you taking your time today, Jennifer, to kind of show us what you've been doing in the classroom, and I'm going to go through a couple different options now so everyone has another idea. So I'll talk to you later.
Stop sharing the screen.
Yes, you can stop sharing, and we can end the call. So thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
All right, so back to me now. So I do want to remind you guys, I forgot about this earlier. We are following along I'm following along using the hashtag play, pause, learn. So if at any time during this short broadcast you have any questions that you want to ask me, or if you need me to go back over something, please go on to Twitter. Use that hashtag for sure, the play, pause, learn one. Castleberry ISD is always nice, but that way I can get those questions and I can kind of answer them as we go. Another thing, we do have prizes at the end. So for those of you who stick around to the end of the broadcast, each week we will be giving away at least 2 different prizes, and they are pretty cool things that you'll want to use in your classroom when we resume normal face-to-face instruction. All right, next up, let's go into Jamboard. So since Jennifer is already over here talking about Jamboard with us, let's go into the basics, how we access it, how we create a new one, all of those sorts of things, and then different ways you can use it within your classroom instruction depending on what you teach. So the first thing, everyone has access to this via the Google Waffle. So it's hidden, you probably didn't even realize, but you'll click on your waffle icon. If you scroll down, some of you might have to keep scrolling, and you might even have to click on see more, but it's the one with the J, so Jamboard. and it'll take you to this screen. This is where you can start your new jams, as they refer to them. And so we'll go ahead and do that. We're going to click on the plus here. And it's made an untitled jam for us. On the left side, we have our navigation. So there's different pen features, things like that. Remember, all of your devices are touch screens. So even if you're a math teacher, if you have a stylus, let me see if I have one around here. I don't have one right here, but you know, if you wanted to, I'm sure you would have to kind of practice a little. Take some time and try to work out math problems to show your students how they would actually go through that. That's a possibility as well. Again, I would kind of flatten the screen though, and I would use a stylus so it's more pinpointed on what you're trying to do. Another thing, you can add images. One thing I had thought about was in an ELA classroom during my live session, if we had just finished reading a short story or a novel, we can go through and I can place this diagram, a simple plot diagram, onto the jam, and I could call on different students during that session and say, you know, Timmy, why don't you go in, tell us what the exposition was, and that student can fill it in. Or, you know, Johnny, I want you to go in and tell us what the rising action of The Great Gatsby is, and things like that. So that's another way. It doesn't have to be like Jennifer used it, all students in it at the same time, but you would still share it the same way. So click on share up here. Anyone who has the link can edit is of course what you would want if you're going to have collaborators. Copy that, and then as usual, you would go right into your Canvas agenda, edit, and then you're going to, you know, add, let's say, today's live jam board. You hyperlink it just like you would a Google Doc, Google Slide. I did not copy it, I guess. Or anything else. So, again, this is just one idea with ELA since I am most familiar with ELA. Another thing I was thinking, even a gallery walk. So some teachers the other day asked a question. They were like, how can we do a virtual gallery walk? And in the past, I've done them maybe with Google Slides and things, but I was thinking we could actually do it with the Jamboard. And then we could publicize it, of course, via Twitter and social media, even the Castleberry Facebook or your individual school Facebook pages. But on each slide, you could assign each of these slides to a different student. And you will want to say number 4 is so-and-so, number 5 is such and such, just so there's not any confusion with students of knowing which slide is theirs. And on each of these, they could post their work. Maybe in art, they just finished painting something or being creative with stuff at home. And you want them to each take a slide and post what they did. And then they would, and then once they, sorry, I was adjusting the volume. Once they post their work, we could publicize it again and take it to those broader forums and really take advantage of the fact that we are remote right now and we can get anyone in the entire world essentially to collaborate with us. So consider that. That's one option. Another thing, I do want to show you, I have not yet, no, I don't, oh, so you could duplicate here apparently if you really liked that and you wanted to make one for each student. It would be a simple way for you to go through and grade everyone's work, but definitely have a process. There needs to be a system in place with which student will be on which tile so that there's not any confusion, just like with Google Slides. Background. So you can add a background. Let me see where that was. Background right here. So right now, you cannot add a custom background. and I was really hoping that you could lock objects and things, but nope, since October 2019, I noticed on their discussion forums, people were complaining about it, and they still have not come up with a resolution. So for sure, look at those, the backgrounds, the graph paper ones. This would probably be easier if I was on a blank one. The graph paper would be nice, in a math class. Maybe you're plotting coordinates or something like that. So this would help students with that kind of component. So that's one option, is your Jamboard. Again, you can use it just like Padlet as well with the sticky notes. Padlet is no longer free for everything or all of, as many boards as you want, so take advantage of this. The next thing I wanted to go through and show you guys is the Microsoft Whiteboard. This is very similar to the Jamboard. It's just a different application. Everyone already has it pre-installed on their school-issued laptop, and there's also a web app version too. So near the clock down here on the lower right-hand corner of your screen, you'll click on the icon that looks like a pin, and then you have the option either to full screen snip or do a whiteboard. So go ahead and click on whiteboard, and then this will come up. So you can create a new one, or I started this one yesterday or the other day thinking, well, if we were in ELA class again, we could, trying to figure out how to zoom out, we'll just center it. So if I was in an English language arts classroom and I'm trying to generate ideas during my live session for an upcoming essay, maybe we just got an essay assigned to us about explaining why heroes are important. And in the essay, of course, students will need to have some examples, specific examples of heroes. So during my live session, what I would do is I would click here. You can copy the link somewhere. Exports into Post-it. Nope, that's going to make an image. Okay, well, it's right here, I bet. Invite someone. Yes. Here we go. So technically you could go through and individually invite them, but you're not going to want to do that. So create sharing link is the option you would select. It gives you a link just like your Google Jamboard did. And if you go over here to Canvas, let me cancel this, you will notice that I've already linked it. So this was my class session for today. I wanted kids to join our collaborative class whiteboard. And when they click on it, they get the option now to view on the web. So that's probably the one that they would want to select. It looks exactly the same as what you're going to have. It's joining, and then we can all be in there at the same time. But I would still have a system probably in place, Let's come up with specific examples of heroes. So each student needs to share one example, and they can do this by adding a Post-it note. They would resize it using the sizing tools here, and then if they double click, they can type into it. So whether or not you want them to attach their name or remain anonymous, that is up to you, but they can change the color. So maybe you have a certain color scheme, certain class periods use a different color and whatnot. But for simplicity and to help you stay organized, it'd probably be best to start a new board for each class, because this does not have different pages like the other one does. So those are two options that I had been thinking about for things you could incorporate into your live session. And even once we're back to face-to-face learning, you can still use these. They're great collaborative tools For students, if you wanted to invite administrators to join in the conversation as well, you most definitely could. Okay, sorry. So, again, use your online whiteboards for entrance and exit tickets. You could do whole class collaboration, maybe give one slide to each student, use it like a gallery walk. Whether you are in an art class, ELA class, it doesn't really matter. Depending on the content, they could still post on a different slide. You could even use it as a back channel. So during your live session, maybe students have questions, but they're kind of embarrassed to raise their hand and say, hey, I don't really understand this. Allow them to post an anonymous question. Say, hey guys, here's our back channel for the day. If you're confused about the lesson, post a question. No one will know who asked the question, but you will be able to answer it and go and clarify for the students. And then I think math, there's a lot of potential here with math. It would take some practice, of course, because I was struggling with it, but I did not have a stylus. And if you have a stylus, I think it would be a whole lot better. One thing I do want to point out is if you have not opened the Microsoft Whiteboard before, so again, you're near the clock in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, where there's the little pin, it says Windows Ink Workspace. If you have not opened that before, it might say it's installing something, and that's okay. You can also access it. Let me see if I can change the screen here. You can also access it by going to, let's say, castleberryisd.net. It should appear in your Office 365. So, employee links. Let's check this out, Microsoft Office 365. You know, I'm really shocked no one has posted questions on our back channel here, so I'm sure there's something I could clarify for all of you. Remember, if you have questions, please post them using the hashtag #PlayPauseLearn so that we can get more information out. What am I looking for? All apps. And then Whiteboard. So I went to my Office 365 from the Castleberry homepage, and then Whiteboard is also right here. So if you're having issues with the install, you can access it here too. It's the same thing. And this is the way students, when they take your link that you post in your LMS, they will be directed to this page. Well, since we do not have any questions, apparently, I do want to thank all of you for tuning in today. We will do this each Friday at around 8:30. And today, if you go on and fill in the survey here, make sure you are following our @InnovateCISD Twitter account, which all of you should be since you're watching this, because that is how the winners of the 2 prizes, we'll give away 2 this week, will be announced. And we will announce those. You'll have until Monday to fill in the survey here. It's just about 5 questions, very simple. But you know how us ELA people are, we like to embed 5 questions within 5 questions. So, go ahead, fill in the survey, fill it out by Monday, please. And then on Tuesday, we will do our drawing for our 2 prize winners. And that will be announced live on our Twitter account. So thank you very much. I hope everyone has a wonderful Friday and a good weekend.